Alrighty, so we're number 12 here. We're on the downside of this stuff. Awesome. So number 12, lack of knowledge of landlord-tenant law and other relevant laws. Wow, wow, wow. Every one of these, I swear I can hold a whole day webinar on just talking about this particular topic. But landlord-tenant law is hugely important. This is something that is always, always neglected by the landlord that I've seen. Very rarely do I ever meet a beginning landlord that knows or have read their state's landlord-tenant law book to know what their state requires the landlord to do and the tenant to do. So the problem with this is you can get into trouble. So it's illegal in some states, for instance, to collect more on a security deposit than what their state allows. Now, how would you know that? Well, you as a landlord, believe it or not, ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's not an excuse that you can have in court. Hey, judge, I'm sorry, I didn't know I couldn't charge them $10,000 for a security deposit. I'm just joking. But know your laws. This is serious about this one. I try to be kind of humorous sometimes, but this is one thing that I have to be serious about. Know what your laws are. Know specifically what security deposit laws are. How much can you charge? When do you have to get the security deposit back to them? How do you need to do that? Do you need to present them a particular letter with a breakdown, like what we call a disposition letter, that says, here's your security deposit, here's all the charges on your account, and here's how much the check that we're giving you is for? Is that kind of required? You need to be able to understand that because you need to follow the laws. Because if not, if you, for instance, in some states that if you don't get the security deposit back within, say, I think some states are like 30 days. By the time their lease ends to 30 days, you need to get their security deposit back. Well, if you don't, then the tenant, you can actually be fined a multiple of what the security deposit is. So you can be fined like twice the security deposit if you don't get it back to them in a reasonable amount of time. Now, that can hurt, you as a landlord. It could really hurt financially to do that because you didn't know. Well, the judge isn't going to see that. If the tenant takes you to court and say, I didn't get my security deposit back, and this is what the law says, judge, and this is what I want you to do, then what is the judge going to do? They have to follow the law. Just because you didn't know it doesn't mean that you're not responsible or liable for it. So security deposits are just one thing. Know how much you can, I guess, how to screen people, what if there's any particular screening functions that people have about maintenance responsibilities for certain states. This is why it's just very important to read your landlord-tenant law. Now, on the Veteran Landlord, I think if you go to like HUD's website, we have a link to it just on our site, that just every state has their own particular laws from HUD. HUD is sort of like the Housing and Urban Development. They're the governing body over all housing, federal all the way down. So a lot of their guidelines, you can look up state laws from there. But lacking irrelevant laws. Now that's just landlord-tenant laws at the state level or even at the federal level. Excuse me as I adjust. One of the things that I see people not doing is fair housing. Fair housing is huge. This is not a joke. People never attend a fair housing seminar being a landlord, but you have to. And I would even advise you do it at least once, at least every 2 years, to go through and check your fair housing law. Because if you don't understand fair housing, this is going to hurt you. It will hurt you. It could be anything from how you talk to somebody over the phone, what you say to somebody, to written policies maybe on your website, to even the marketing that you put out can be offensive to people that you can't say. Or if you say this, then that could be a direct fair housing violation and somebody can sue you for that. So just please be careful. Know this law. This is serious. So the Fair Housing Act, and then just all the other laws regarding, the Americans with Disability Act is another one that people have to keep in mind, regarding how, if somebody's handicapped, and then service animal dogs, emotional animal dogs. All these things kind of fall into these local laws and so forth. Now, even within your state laws, your local city, municipality is what we call them, may have other rules. Excuse me. The local city may have additional rules that's different than the state. They may take the state's policies and then add things to it that can extend what the state says, that if you have property in this area, now you have to not only do what the state says, now you have to do what we say as well. So know those rules, know those laws. Now, if you don't, I mean, you can obviously call your local city or municipality and ask them, call City Hall, find out if, whatever department governs the regulations of rental properties and things like that, and find out from them what are the rules and regulations. I'm sure they're posted on the website or have some pamphlet or brochure that you can download, but take 30 minutes and call and figure this stuff out. This is very important, and this goes back to just you want to make sure you know this because you don't want the tenant to be more knowledgeable on this than you are, and that would be a problem. So let's see, making sure I got everything here. And I'll just kind of read, this is just some of my notes. I'm just going to read verbatim here. I don't do this a whole lot, but it's just very important I do this. The Fair Housing Act of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 requires that you cannot deny a tenant's application based upon race, color, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, handicap, or familial status. Okay, so this is one of those type of things where you can easily get into trouble regarding any of those. So I just read that. You could do some more research on it yourself by researching the Fair Housing Act, but the Fair Housing Law. But guys, please do not violate this. Know these rules and follow them. Okay, this right here is why I said back in the tenant screening section about not screening your tenants correctly. Goodness, that if you screen these tenants yourself, you are responsible for this. Now, you don't have to worry about any of this. You don't have to worry about violating, asking the wrong type of questions. The only thing you have to make sure is that the marketing that you do for your property doesn't violate any of this, which is fairly straightforward and easy. Most people don't, but there's some things that you don't want to say in your marketing. But anyway, the third-party tenant screening company, they're responsible for making sure they follow the fair housing laws. So hopefully that is helpful.